Another news, US has revoked the visas of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and 80 other officials ahead of next month's high-level meeting of the UN General Assembly. Now, this move has sparked outrage, especially among the Palestinian Authority, who decry the steps as against international law. Now, US State Department says, and I'm quoting here, "It is in our national security interest to hold the Palestine Liberation Organization and the Palestinian Authority accountable for not complying with their commitments and for undermining the prospects of peace." The Palestinian Authority denounced the visa withdrawals as a violation of US commitments as the host of the country of the United Nations and urged the State Department to reverse its decision. In its statement, Palestinian presidency said the visa decision contravenes international law and the headquarters agreement since the state of Palestine is an observer member of the United Nations.
We are going to discuss this with the State Department. I mean, the headquarters agreement deserves to be read, notably, I think, sections 11 and 12. We obviously hope that this will be resolved. It is important that all member states, permanent observers, be able to be represented, especially I think in this case, with the, as we know, the upcoming two-state solution meeting that that France and Saudi Arabia will host at the beginning of the GA.
The Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas planned to attend the annual high-level UN General Assembly in Manhattan, but reports suggest that the Palestinian President was also set to attend a summit there where Britain, France, Australia and Canada have pledged to formally recognize a Palestinian state. The Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares has said that US move was unacceptable. Irish Foreign Minister Simon Harris has said that the EU should protest the decision in the strongest possible terms. France says US should not deny Palestinians access to UN summit.
Je veux rappeler, suite aux annonces qui ont été
Following the announcements made in recent hours, I would like to reiterate that the United Nations headquarters is a place of neutrality and a sanctuary dedicated to peace, where conflicts are resolved and wars are prevented. From this perspective, a United Nations General Assembly, which was founded 80 years ago by France and other countries, should not be subject to any restrictions on access. I will have the opportunity to discuss this issue with my European colleagues.
The United States generally issues visas to allow foreign ministers to come to the UN headquarters. For officials from countries under severe US government sanctions, American officials restrict their movements in New York. But right now, Palestine is a permanent observer state at the UN, and that status allows it to participate in all of the organization's proceedings except for voting on draft resolutions and decisions in its main organ and bodies, from the Security Council to the General Assembly and its 6 main committees. In 1974, the UNGA adopted resolution also recognized the Palestine Liberation Organization as the representative of the Palestinian people, inviting them to the meetings held by UNGA on the question of Palestine. And for more on this, joining us live from Berlin is Achim Bitterlich. He was the former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us and joining us on the broadcast.
Hello, pleasure to be with you, as always.
So, big diplomatic drama brewing at the UN. The Palestinian president has been blocked from attending next month's General Assembly, and Marco Rubio has justified it by saying that Palestine is undermining peace efforts and pushing for statehood recognition. Now, this is rather unusual because now Palestine is a permanent observer at the UN, and that essentially allows it to participate in all of the organization's proceedings. How do you see this move?
Well, you were right to mention the decision of UN of 1974 recognizing the observer status of the OLP to New York. And therefore, I think the refusal of a visa to a Palestinian leader by the US is not a new phenomenon. Please remember, in 1988, the Americans refused the visa to Yasser Arafat, the legendary leader of the OLP. And therefore the UN put the meeting away from New York to Geneva. I hope this will not be necessary this time, and that the Europeans, as others, will convince the Americans to withdraw this refusal. Because the Americans say clearly, well, the Palestinians have to reject, to refuse resolutely terrorism. and not undermine any potential peace process. But on the other hand, when you look at the Israeli attitude today, a refusal of a two-state solution, the Americans should, let's say, make possible to the UN to work and to the Palestinians to express their view in the General Assembly of the UN. Especially, and you mentioned it too, as France, Canada and Australia want to notify their recognition of a Palestinian state during this UN Assembly. And therefore it's important that the Palestinians have their voice there and can be integrated, be part of any peace process in the Middle East. Therefore, I think it's important that the Palestinians can be present. And I think nothing to add to what the French Foreign Minister Barrot has said in Copenhagen this morning. The Americans have to assure the free access to the UN general debates in New York, and there will have to be no limitations of access. And UN New York is a site of neutrality, a haven of, let's say, in the service of peace in the world. And therefore, I hope very much that the Americans review their decision not to allow Mahmoud Abbas to go to New York.
Absolutely, sir. And while we say that, we know that the counter move is gaining traction. France, the UK, Canada and Australia are pushing for Palestinian state recognition at the UN, and it is a move that Trump administration is firmly against. Now, in case that this recognition actually goes through, will it go beyond symbolism and actually change realities on the ground?
Well, this is the question again. When you look at the situation on the ground, we are more far away from the two-state solution than, let's say, in the last 30 years. I remember at the end of the 90s, we were near to a two-state solution in the negotiations led by the Americans, by Clinton at that period, with the Israelis and with the Palestinians. And when you look at the situation on the ground, we are more far away from, let's say, a peaceful solution in the Middle East. Even from, let's say, a solution implying Jordan or any other neighbor state. And therefore, how to get back, let's say, the necessary pace, into this peace process in order to reach, let's say, a peaceful solution of this conflict now existing since 1949, if you want. It's soon 100 years ago that we are talking about this conflict, talking about a Palestinian state, talking about not only a state for Israel, but at the same time for the Palestinians. And we are now more far away from, let's say, a real solution of this conflict, despite over recognition of the states.
Absolutely. And Mr. Bitlik, it remains to be seen whether US will hold its ground or could it actually go reverse on the ban and would allow Mahmoud Abbas to join the General Assembly. But thank you so much for joining us in the broadcast and sharing your valuable perspective with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, as always.